Hi, everybody, and welcome back to K&E Theater Group's Local Spotlight Series. We're really excited about today's guest, but before we go into that, really quickly, just a quick reminder, if you are so inclined, K&E Theater Group, of course, like every other theater company, is struggling through the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you're on Facebook and you are inclined, there is a PayPal link in the comment section below. If you click on that, you can donate there. Also, if you're not on Facebook, you're on IGTV or our YouTube channel, or you're on Facebook and you're like, let's do it another time when I'm feeling up to it, you can always go to our website, which is ketg.org, click on Support KETG, and donate there. Well, I'm so excited about today's interview. This man's resume is incredible, and he is just such a kind man. And I am just so excited that he is in the Western Mass area and creating art. So please, everyone at home, help me welcome Joe Dulude. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I'm happy to.
All right, we are going to jump right in because I am so excited about this interview. The first question is the same question that I ask everybody for every interview, and that is, what is your theatrical timeline? Where did you start? How did you start? Where are you now? And give us all of the fun details in the middle.
Sure. So I loved doing theater since I was a kid. So I did a lot of community theater. I did theater and plays and acted when I was in high school, going into college. And then in college, I started doing some more of the technical work. And then it sort of, after I left college, it sort of just faded away. And I became a makeup artist, and I was working retail for MAC Cosmetics. Started as a cashier, worked my way up to the manager of the pro store. And so I had done a lot of like body painting and editorial and fashion, and that was my background. And I had done some television, left MAC after 5.5 years and moved to LA. And my plan was to do more film and television, learn special effects, and get into the union. So I was working on that there, and it was slow, very slow going, very slow going, and not making a whole lot of money, but trying anyway. And a friend of mine wanted to do a film and had written a film, and so his idea was that he would create a trailer for the film so that he could shop the film around with the trailer. So we did 3 weeks in Montana. I was like, what? Some state that's in the middle of nowhere. Some state in the middle of nowhere with a lot of sky, big sky. So we did 3 weeks in Montana, and then there was a weekend of shooting in New York. And I said, well, that's perfect timing because that is right when Fashion Week starts. And I had been working with E! Entertainment Television with the Style Network. And so I told them I would be in New York for that time. And so they could book me to do some of their hosts for Fashion Week. And so while I was there, my friend Kate Best, who is Vanessa Williams' personal makeup artist and also J-Lo's makeup artist, was doing Into the Woods with Vanessa. And she needed to take 2 shows off. And she called me because she found out I was in town and said, can you do this? And I said, sure. And I went in and I trained, and the 2 shows turned into 8 shows. So I stayed longer, and then I went back to LA. She called me the next week, said, will you come back and do another week? And I said, yes. She flew me back. I did another week. And then I went back to LA, and then she said, I don't want to do this anymore. Will you come and take over for me? So because she's a celebrity makeup artist, she doesn't want to be in the theater 8 shows a week. It's just not her thing. So even though it was the same year that I had moved out to LA, and it was only 7 months after, I said yes, and I moved back cross country and moved back for it because I knew that I would get my union through it, because I would have made enough days to get my union. And so I did that until the end, which was, we stayed open a couple of weeks after Vanessa left, someone came in just to do the last 2 weeks because it was through the end of the year. So they just figured they would end at the end of the year. And Susan Hilferty was the costume designer for that. And I heard that she was going to be doing Wicked, and I loved the book. I had read it twice. And so I said to her, I would love to work on this production. And just like I had been doing, like doing the makeup for the show. And so the show Into the Woods ends, I put that out there, and I start freelancing for Mac in the offices again, doing horrible store operations, which was basically like calling stores and being like, hi, how many light bulbs do you have out? Do you need more light bulbs? Oh, do you need your door fixed? Great. And got the opportunity to go into this position, artist relations, which was something I had always wanted to do when I worked at Mac, dealing with other makeup artists and getting them product and going and being like a liaison between Mac and the makeup artist. So I had gotten this position, which was at that point just sort of a part-time temporary position, but hopefully being a permanent one. And the day that I was supposed to start, I got a call from Susan's office because it was like a month before they were going to San Francisco for out of town. And I thought, oh, okay, they must have gone with someone else. And then Susan's office called me to come in and interview. And my interview was on the day that I was supposed to start in artist relations.
Oh my gosh.
And I told my boss about it in artist relations, and she was totally cool with it. And I went for the interview, and at that point, I didn't really have a book to really show her much. And she was like, that's fine, just bring some pictures of things you've done. And I did, and interviewed with her, and then got the call that they wanted me to design the show.
Oh my God.
And so I was just like, okay. and then I was like, well, what do I do? I've got this position that I always wanted at Mac, and yet now I have this opportunity, which is incredible. And my boss at Mac, I remember her sitting down with her, and she said, you need to go do this. She was like, you'd be stupid not to do this. And she's like, and if it doesn't work out, she's like, we're still here. We're not going anywhere. So I did it. And then, of course, it became a hit, which none of us even knew if it was going to be. I was too afraid to be a designer at that point, just a designer. So I wanted a full-time job. So I worked on the show. I worked on Broadway for a little over a year, the tour for 4 years, and then did San Francisco for the 2 years I was there, with time off to design other shows. I would go and set up other Wickeds all over the world. So that was part of my contract, was that I could take the time off if I got offered other shows. So in the beginning, I didn't get much, but then the next show I got was Wedding Singer. Mm-hmm. And then things started slowly building up after that, and doing shows here and there. And then, and obviously traveling all over the world with Wicked and seeing it in every language I think it's been done in, and at least the official Wickeds. And then finally, after, when San Francisco was closing, I was like, that's it, I'm done. Like, I was done before that, but I needed work. So, but I was like, okay, I'm going to move back to New York. I'll reestablish myself there, and we'll see what happens and see if I can start getting jobs. And I started getting some jobs, and I started getting some design jobs, and then it kept growing. I was in New York for 2 years, and I had been dating someone, and we had been dating for almost a year. And so I had just assumed, I was like, okay, I guess I'm stuck here now. Like, I wasn't happy being in New York, and said I would never go back. But I was like, okay, I'm here now. We're in this relationship. And then he broke up with me. And then I sat and thought, there's nothing keeping me here. I was like, I need to get out of here. And I had been visiting one of my best friends up in Western Mass in Amherst since 2003. So Wicked started in 2003, and her husband and her moved up here in 2003. So I had been visiting them on and off since then, and I had fallen in love with the area. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to finally do it. I'm going to move up there. Whatever happens, happens. If I have to just get a regular job, I'll just get a regular job, and that'll be it. And then I moved up here, and then started getting more work than when I lived in New York, down in New York or in other places. And that's really when my career started to really start to snowball, and where I started to do a lot of shows, because up until then I think my career averages out to 1 to 2 shows a year since I've been designing. So for 17 years, I think I've done like 19 or 20 shows, something like that. But it wasn't until then that it all started like really happening, and also me finding myself. And then I had been doing this sort of generic theater work for so long that I had sort of lost who I was as an artist. And I did a program and with the Powder Group, which is this makeup organization, and it sort of opened me up. And from that point on, like the things I started doing much more creative things, and really like pushing myself further to do things. And then and so it's been up until this year. It's just kind of keeps going. I started teaching makeup for theater, where I basically taught them makeup, and taught them how to be artists and how to think for themselves. And so I did that for the last 8 years. And then last year, I've been starting to do more film and television in the Boston area. So I wanted to open up my schedule more, because I wasn't teaching here. I was teaching in Pennsylvania at Muhlenberg, which was my favorite, and if it was closer, I would still be teaching there to this day, but it's 4.5 hours away from here. Yeah. So, and then I was teaching in New York at Pace, and then I was teaching at the Hart School in Hartford, which is only about an hour from where I live, or a little over an hour from where I live now. But it was all the freshman class, and not my favorite to teach musical theater freshmen. But also it wasn't a whole semester. It was only 4 nights of classes. And so trying to come up with a program and to teach these kids something that they could take away that is useful in 4 nights is really difficult. And having a class of 20 and being able to teach them in one dressing room, but then they split into 2 dressing rooms. And then it's like I'm going back and forth. So like sometimes I get stuck in one for a really long time and don't get to the other one. So I just didn't enjoy it. And I thought, well, I've been getting all this film and television work. So let me open my schedule up so I'm not traveling as much, and I can work on these productions. And this year I had already had a lot of work lined up, and there was a lot more work coming in, and I had been asked to do all of these different projects, all this different film and television and stuff. And of course, everything got shut down. So sadly, none of that's happening right now, but that is my timeline.
I love it. I love it. Now, what's the last show you worked on?
The last show I worked on was Fly at La Jolla Playhouse.
Wow.
So I did that right before I got back, like a week or so before everything sort of started shutting down. So I was in San Diego for, I think, 3 weeks, working on that. Tough show.
Yeah.
To design, but I'm very proud of it, and I loved the design for it. It's a really great show, and the flying was beautiful. And it's sad that show also didn't get a chance to sort of see it through to the end. And when we still didn't know how long we were going to be shut for, their next show obviously had been canceled because they weren't going to be able to rehearse it in time to get it up in the time that it was supposed to be if everything had opened back up. And so they were thinking about that, since everything for Fly was still there, that they would just bring everybody back and just do the show for the time period that the other show was supposed to go on. And then of course everything shut down. So they were like, sorry, we're not going to do it. I mean, I'm sure everything is still there. So, I mean, they could just...
You never know.
Pick it up and do it again.
That's amazing. What a life, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I was working on a Disney Plus movie, doing background about fairy godmothers. And I don't know what's going to happen with that, because we never finished shooting. So it got shut down before it finished shooting. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. But because I think they were like a week or 2 weeks still left of shooting when everything got shut down.
It's Disney. They're going to finish it.
Yeah, let's hope. But I mean, they're gonna have to reconsider how they do it because it was huge, like on location with lots of background, and they're not really going to be able to do that. So
This pandemic, man, I'm over it.
yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the design element
Okay.
of a makeup design. So how do you create a makeup design? Like from the beginning, like for instance, having to talk to creatives, to the moment you get to see your design on stage?
Sure. So usually how it starts off with design is that the costume designer is usually the person that hires me. They hire the makeup designer and they hire the wig designer. Not always, but most of the time that's how it works. So we sort of work as a whole unit together. And I'll meet with them or I'll talk to them on the phone. They'll, send me a Dropbox or a Google folder with all, their sketches and their research. We talk about what the theme is, what the look is, what they're going for. Sometimes at that point, they'll have a full cast and I'll be able to see all the headshots of the cast. Sometimes they'll even have fitting photos. Yeah, fitting photos. And so I'll be able to sort of see that as well. And then I just take it from there. And I'm a huge researcher. I love to research. And I have a lot of knowledge up here already because of that. So I just go online. I start looking for inspiration, things that will inspire me for not just necessarily makeup wise, and maybe it's not even specifically this type of makeup, but something that may, or looking for, if it's a time period, that time period, or with Fly it was very tribal, so I have a lot of reference books here that I have a great book of called Before They Disappear or something like that, where it's just all these tribes throughout the world that still exist, but they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I was able to flip through that and get inspiration from that. And then I have face charts, which is basically just a face drawn onto a piece of paper. And I start sketching on it with the makeup. I use the actual makeup and I just draw on it with the makeup to start the design and see if I like things. And if I don't, I throw it away. And usually I start to get that and start to get an idea. Or sometimes I'll just do simple sketches just to like with Fly, I was doing some simple sketches just to get ideas of placement. Rather than like spending the time to do a full makeup chart. And then once that's done, then my next part is then meeting with the actors and then, doing the makeup on the actors and then us seeing what that makeup looks like on stage under the lights to see if it works or if it doesn't work. And then knowing how to change things around, mix it up, use different colors. It's a little difficult because sometimes, it's not like a wig where you build a wig and then you just restyle it, but the wig is there. But with makeup, you're not sure if this makeup is going to work. And a lot of times I get makeup companies to sponsor, so I'll get a lot of free makeup, but I don't want to order the makeup before I know if it's actually going to work. Because also you have to deal with people's skin color, and sometimes colors change when they go on different skin colors, or skin types. Sometimes people with oily skin will, like, the colors will change or they'll absorb, or when you're working with darker skin tones, they tend to absorb the makeup more, but also depending on the undertone of their skin, you might throw something on them and it may look horrible. But through experience, I kind of know which direction to go in. But there are times when I've even chosen things and they haven't worked out. And so then you can't really buy anything until the design gets approved. But then like you're in a crunch because then these people need to have their makeup on for the tech. And so it's usually that. And sometimes you can't figure out what to do, and it was the case with these characters that were trees in Fly, and that was the difficult part of the whole show. I couldn't figure out what to do. They told me what they wanted, and it just wasn't it wasn't right, and then I was trying to do stuff and that wasn't right, and then it was going to be too difficult for the actors to do it. And so I'm like, okay, how can I make something that is easy for them to do, that I am also proud of, to put up there, that also fits into this whole world that they're in, and not just let's throw some dots on someone's face. Like, yeah, that's not a design, that's just copying something that's you've seen. So yeah, and that pretty much ends it. And then once we start seeing it, and then they start doing their makeup, and I give my notes to the actors, or I get the notes from the director or the costume designer, then I fix things. And then at a certain point, usually by first preview, everything is okay. Yeah, and I work a lot with the wig designer too. So a lot of times we'll work together, and we'll see things, and I'll be like, that's not working, or like, because most of the time I work with my friend Chuck LaPointe, who basically does every show. And, he'll say things like, ooh, the color that we did the wig is kind of not so great. Like, can you throw some like color on her cheeks just so she doesn't look so pale? And I'll be like, yeah. Or sometimes I'll be like, ooh, that shape is really weird. Like, it's not working with what what we're doing. I was like, can we change it? And he'll be like, yeah. And so that's what I love. I love the collaboration between all of us, the costume, the hair, and the makeup, to be able to like be in conjunction with each other, and be able to riff off of each other.
So what would you say is your favorite part of designing a show?
The design part. The actual design part, creating worlds. I love creating worlds. I love creating worlds. I love creating characters. And I love being able, especially to do these sort of offbeat shows where I actually am creating a character. Like, I am creating something. Like for Beetlejuice, I know the movie really well, and I know those makeups really well. Now, how do I take this and not just copy what they're doing, but make it my own? And one of the best things for me is then to see my creations being cosplayed all over the place. Like, this is now what Beetlejuice's makeup is for people. Like, they no longer really do the old Beetlejuice. They do my version of Beetlejuice. And I'm like, that's crazy. And I know V. Neal, who designed the original and did the makeup for the original Beetlejuice. So it's really kind of cool to see, like, to have that happen. And we were at a makeup show in LA, and I was doing this video thing for this company, and so they had asked me to come, be at the booth for a short period of time, and V was also going to be at the booth for a short period of time. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, look, this is what I just finished doing. And I was like, here. And I showed her the picture of Beetlejuice, and she was like, oh, it's really cool. And it was just fun, because in my head, I forget that she did it, because I've just known her for so many years. And so then all of a sudden it clicked in my head, and I was like, ooh, she is. And so it's kind of cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Now,
growing up a little gay boy in Rhode Island, I never in my life imagined that I would be doing the things or meeting the people that I've met.
Oh, but it's just so cool. Like, you have so many stories to tell. That's
I do, and a lot of stories that I can't tell.
Not here. Are you working on any? I know we're in a pandemic.
Yeah.
But are you working on anything now?
As far as makeup and design, no. Everything has been shut down. Everything that I was supposed to be working on or designing, obviously is postponed. So as far as that is going, no. But I'm working on my own projects. I'm working on stuff with Egg-Tooth Productions. We just finished up. I just finished up my part of Promenade 3, which are, I don't know if Linda might have mentioned this in her interview, but we do these audio tours. So it's this app called Echoes, and you drop pins in places, and you have like a sound file that's in a specific, what do you call that?
I am like no technology for me.
Geo positioning, something like that. Well, anyway, you go to a certain place, and then you're wearing your headphones, and all of a sudden this audio file comes on. And we had done one that was very simple. It was in Amherst. and it was just poetry. We were each read a poem, and so you walk through, and when you get to certain points, you hear this poem that sort of coincides with where you are. It's really great how John Bechtold, our director, kind of chose these poems perfectly. He did another one at Highland Park, which is just up the street from me, which is just this story between these two people, a male and a female. So as you walk through, you hear the story. And this one that we're working on now, which hopefully will be up in August, is at Skinner Mountain.
Oh.
And it's based on the tarot. So each one of us is a tarot card, and you start at the bottom, and it's the Fool, and then it's called the Fool's Journey. And then as you go along, you hit all of the tarot cards, hopefully, because some of them might be hidden in places. But I'm the magician, so after the Fool, I'm the first person that you get to meet. But we had to come up with the scenes ourselves, and it's, we've done this immersive work before, but I've always been able to create a space to make my scene work. So I have created a piece or come up with this character, like he's the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland, and then created an entire space with this dining room table that I would bring people into that was like, had my stuffed rooster on it, and like all the place settings, and I was giving people absinthe, and I was able to create all of this. And then you go in the space, and then you're like, oh, this isn't working. So I know how to fix it and make it so that it works and know what is going to be good. But this is your space is there. You can't do anything with it. It's right. Nature. You can't put anything there because someone might take it. So how do you do a 5 to 7 minute piece and engage people in this piece and get them engaged enough to want to stay in your space for 5 to 7 minutes, and give them, like, John has this thing where it's I forgot what the 3 words. Basically, it's like an invite, and then like a sort of like seduce, and then release. And I'm like, how do you do that? I'm not there. Like, it's easy when you're in a physical space to do it, but when
right.
you just your voice, and you have to do things, and you don't want to be like, walk 10 paces, because it just doesn't work. So it was very, very difficult, but very rewarding. I'm not sure I would want to do it again, but at least not where I'm having to come up with the whole concept. It just is very frustrating, but I'm happy with the result.
Well, I mean, Eggtooth is doing some innovative work, and for everyone at home, go on their website, look at the things that they've done. You did the makeup for their version of Frankenstein as well.
I did.
We had Lyndall Hart, who wrote it and starred in it on a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I got to paint Lyndall naked every performance.
Lyndall was probably like, oh gosh.
There were 2 of us. It was really funny, and I was like, I painted naked people before, so I was like, I'll do the front. I was like, and then I had the woman who was my assistant. I was like, you can do the back. But it was fun. We had a great time doing it, and that was the first thing. Like, I had met Linda previously before I had moved here, and then I moved here, and she was doing this production, and she asked me to design the makeup for it, and she basically said, you have carte blanche, you do whatever you want. And and it was great and fun, and the production was really fun to do, and we had a great time. It was very creative for me.
So now, like I said, we're in a pandemic.
Yeah.
If you didn't know. But what have you been doing to stay creative during this time?
So I've been doing a few things on and off. And when people look at my social media, they feel like I'm constantly working and creating, which is not true at all. I go through periods where I do create a lot, and then weeks where I can't do anything. Like, I just can't bring myself to do anything. But one of the first things that started was I started these paintings, and they're called a series of paintings called Mask Femme. And so I would find these drag queens and drag kings online, not super famous ones, but ones that maybe are famous in their area, but not like RuPaul's Drag Race famous. And what I specifically chose ones that mixed masculine and feminine. So there's a lot of bearded drag queens. There's a lot of very feminine looking drag kings, or drag kings that are now doing like really amazing creative makeup. It's not just about let's contour and do this, like they're doing makeup, you know, wearing horns, doing all kinds of stuff. And so whenever one would sort of speak to me, I would take a screenshot of the picture. And in the past, all of my painting has been very black and white with maybe a little bit of red, but very dark. And I think I did some work on myself, and so that darkness was sort of gone. So all of the paintings ended up being super bright and like really bright colors, solid backgrounds. And so you could see an example in the back there, which is a new series that I'm working on for the Mill District in Amherst, which is going to be public art outside. But so this one was, I think there's 20 something of them, and they range in size from 16 by 20 to 30 by 40 are the biggest ones. Wow. And so you could see a bunch of it on my Instagram. All of them are up there. And it started to bring me so much joy because, one, I was able to paint again, and normally my schedule doesn't allow the time for me to be able to spend this much time painting. But also like the color was bringing me so much joy, and then sharing it with everybody, and also tagging these artists, these drag artists in it, and the response that I was getting from them from it was really incredible. Like it just made me so happy. So now I'm working because the owner of the Mill District saw the work and wanted to put it up, but it's not made for the outdoors. So she commissioned me to do a piece for the Mill District to show outdoors. And so she sent me this vintage picture of all of the lumber workers from back in the day. And they were all lined up, and like some of them are standing there with their hands on their hips. And I was like, huh. I was like, well, what if I mix them in with drag queens and drag kings and put it in bright colors, but they're the lumber workers. So like that one is there, and then it's not quite finished, and I might actually paint over a bunch of it because I'm not so happy with it, but like he has his axe, and I have another one that has a saw, and I have, so they have their elements, and they're looking like lumber mill workers, and then you have this like fabulous drag queen or drag king standing next to them. And so I'm working on that, and then with my drag character, Mr. Drag, I started doing a show called Quarantini, Cocktails and Song with Mr. Drag. And that's on my YouTube channel. And you could see the evolution of it, because the first episode is 2 shots. The first shot is me rambling on, telling a story. And then the second shot is me singing a song. And then also making a cocktail in between the two. And then as I started doing it, I was like, oh wait, I need to do like multiple shots. And then I was like, well, wait, I need to like get a proper microphone because the audio is really weird. And I was like, wait, I need to get a good editing program now because I need to edit this a lot better and make this look a lot better, and I can. And so as you progress along the series, you could see how it develops. And so, you know, it's just these stories that Mr. Drag tells, and he's at home in quarantine. Usually he starts off all the time he's on the phone with Joan Collins, because they're very good friends. And then as it went on, the last episode, which I did 8 episodes, and the last one, I wanted to do something special. And so I introduced all these other characters that have been in my head that I've wanted to do. And so he has them be guest stars on it and interviews them for a little brief moment. And then at the end, all 4 of them sing "That's What Friends Are For" together. And it was so much fun, and I loved it. So I did 8 episodes. I plan on doing another season, but I just need to figure out what I want to do. But I did a Pride special where I introduced 2 more characters. So it was Mr. Drag, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
Wow.
other characters that I did. But I decided very late to do it. So it came out the week after Pride. And I filmed it and edited it in 2 days.
Oh my God.
So it was a lot, but it's really fun, and it's something that's been making me very happy, is sort of creating these characters and just being able to do them, and having fun with it. And then doing like video things like this, or like teaching classes online, which is difficult, but
Yeah.
that's part of it. And then we're supposed to be doing a Drag Sisters show. We were supposed to be doing it in August, a live show, but obviously we can't. So we decided that we would do it as a TV show.
Oh, cool.
And we're working on that. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen, because scheduling wise, and with things being up in the air about knowing, a couple of people are teachers. So like not knowing what's happening with their school, it might make things difficult to film it. But it's Mr. Drag and his much older sister, and then his younger, less talented sister, who's played by Micah Plunkett, who you also interviewed. Yes. And then we have another person who plays our maid, and we have someone who plays the voice of Alexa.
Oh my God.
I hope I didn't say that too loud, because she's in this room.
Comic-Con has me feeling like a virtual superhero.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you, Alexa.
So we have someone, because that was something that I did in quarantine, was I started using her as a character, like the actual one, so she would respond to me when I would talk to her.
That's awesome.
So I decided, why not actually have someone play her, and then she can respond however I want her to respond. And so she just is always doing things like laughing out of nowhere, playing whatever music she wants to, or you say something and she starts to play a song because she thinks you said something else. And so been working on that, writing that, and then we do a big holiday show as well, which I think is also going to be a TV show. It'll be like variety TV show style. So we'll shoot it at the Shea, but it'll just be at the Shea. Whereas Drag Sisters, we're going to be here in my apartment, since I established this as Mr. Drag's home.
Gotcha.
Doing all the scenes, and then we'll go to the stage at the Shea, and we'll do the musical numbers on the stage at the Shea.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I know it sounds like a lot. It does sound like a lot.
It does.
But then there are also times when, like I said, for weeks, I lay on my couch and watch TV, because I can't bring myself to do anything, so it's that sort of up and down a lot. I mean, I couldn't read for the first, I think 4 months. Like I couldn't pick up a book and read it.
Oh, wow.
I just couldn't focus on it, which is good that I had the paintings, because that's a space where, like, I put on music, I start to paint, and my mind goes elsewhere.
Well, question for people at home who want to see Mr. Drag, the variety show, and the other thing with your characters that are coming in and all of that. How do they get to see that?
So Mr. Drag has an Instagram, Mr. Drag Bon Vivant. And I also have my YouTube channel, which is Joe Dulude II, because I'm the second. And so all of the videos are there. The quarantini videos are there. And the Pride special is there. I've also been doing a podcast with my best friend, James Vincent, and that's up on there. So yeah, but that's pretty much where you can see most of the stuff. And then, yeah. And on the Instagram, there's always more information, and I always post it on my Instagram too, so.
Perfect. All right, so I've got two questions that are sort of the similar, but slightly different. So the first one is, what is the best advice that's been given to you about the business? And the second part is, what is the best advice you can give to someone about the business?
The best advice that I've been given about the business, it's interesting. I'm trying to remember now, because there's advice that I've been given about writing that always sticks with me, but I don't think it quite applies. But it's like, don't be afraid to kill your babies. Like, don't be so attached to something that you're creating that you can't see what's wrong with it. But I don't think that applies so much with theater. But I think, learning not to judge people on other people's opinions is something that maybe wasn't told to me, but it was something that I learned. And because people would have preconceived notions about other people, or they would have worked with them and that their personalities didn't get along. And I always went into situations ignoring what those people said and just judging the person on my own. And it never had the experiences that the people, except for a couple of times, but those were people that everybody said. So those are people that I was like, I know what I'm getting into. That's one of the stories I can't tell about Faye Dunaway.
I do have to say about your the first part that you said didn't apply as much. I think that's really interesting, because I was always told that, but as far as an actor goes, as far as choices, how you don't, you shouldn't work. Yeah, you don't have to stick with one choice.
Yeah,
so that was really, I love that.
Yeah. I got a lot of advice when I was starting out, but it was advice more in the sort of business side of it. I didn't really get a lot of advice in the creative side of it. I got a lot of help. Like when I was setting up Wicked, this was not my world. So I didn't know what to do. And when we were out of town in San Francisco, like I had only worked for Mac. So that's what I had in my kit. Like I didn't know all these other lines that existed out there. And the ladies who came into the hair department were also makeup artists. And so they were able to help me out and sort of guide me along and be like, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And being able to suggest some things for me. I just sort of faked it until I figured out.
I mean, that's great advice right there, is learn from everyone.
Don't be afraid. You're always, if you stop learning, then there's something wrong.
Truth. That is the truth. So what is the best advice you can give to somebody about the business?
My best advice to give to someone is be kind. I think that's one of the most important things. Be kind and put 100% into every aspect of what you do. Because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of other people out there who want to do the same thing that you want to do. And you can have an incredible voice, and you could be a charming gay man, or you could, have the perfect body, or be an amazing dancer. But if you are not kind and you don't put your all into it, you won't continue. You may get hired once, maybe twice, but people will start to see that. And I see it in, with some people that I know in the industry, people who are not greatly talented, but when they're in a show, they're in the show. They never phone it in. They're always 100%, and they constantly work and they constantly get hired because people know that this is their work ethic. And then you see the people who are incredible dancers, and they never work, because no one wants to deal with someone who is always complaining, always in a bad mood, injures themselves, all the time. that's not what people want. They want someone who is reliable. I would see this with my makeup students a lot, where they would just sort of do, I'm just gonna say, a half-assed job with the makeup, and just sort of shrug it off like it was, I'm not gonna need this. And then I would have to sit down with them and say, like, yes, you do need this, because when you go in a show, you're doing your own makeup. No one else is gonna do it for you. So you have to do it. And I think, this is why I think I've been so successful, is because I don't stress out. If something goes wrong, I fix it. I mean, I've had my stress moments, but I have my stress moments with outside of the space. I don't have it in the space, and I do my job. And like I said, I fake it. If I don't know what I'm doing, I still do it. And hopefully it works out. And if it doesn't work out, I fix it and I change it. But I think that's one of the reasons why I do get hired, aside from being really creative and doing really good work. I have a good presence and also a calming presence. So because I don't get stressed out.
And you're just so darn enjoyable.
Thanks. Well, because why not? Like, I don't understand people who are miserable all the time. It's like, it takes so much energy to do that. And why be miserable all the time? Like, you can find something beautiful and something good in everything, and even bad things. There's something good that comes out of those bad things, whether it's growth personally or mentally, or, it leads to something even better, then just it's life. And this is what we go through, like this whole pandemic. Everybody, I don't know anybody who likes this pandemic or who's like, oh, this is great and I hope it continues for the rest of the year. But and I have a lot of stress because I have no work for the whole rest of the year, and I don't get unemployment like other people do, because all of my work is out of state, usually, except for the film and television. So I don't get a good amount in my unemployment, nothing to survive on. And so, not knowing what's happening for the next 6 months, but I've been able to do incredible artwork. I've been able to do Quarantini. I've been able to expand Mr. Drag further than I would have been able to, before, because I've had the time to do it. So as hard as it is and as bad as some of the parts of it are, there's some really amazing things that I would never give up.
So be kind and keep a positive attitude.
Yeah.
I think that right there. I mean, no one wants to work with. You want to work with somebody you're going to have a good time with.
Yeah, and who's gonna like put their all into what they're doing, and enjoy it. It's not always, tech is not enjoyable ever. I don't know any time that tech is enjoyable, especially me having to sit out in a dark theater for hours and hours of the day, just watching the same number over and over again. And I'm like, all I need to do is see the makeup once, and I'm like, I know what I need to do.
Like, notes, check, let's go.
So it's not fun, but you know what? It's part of your job, and you do it, and you keep your positive attitude.
I love that. Well, I have one more question for you, and it is the same question that I ask everybody at the end of every interview. And that is, what draws you to live theater, to live performance?
I think what draws me the most to live theater is that it's live. And there's something really wonderful about seeing something that changes every night. It's never exactly the same. Things can go wrong, which creates a whole other dimension to it, but also the response from the audience. There's nothing like, and having performed as well, having that response from the audience is everything to a show. And you don't get that when we're doing a film or a TV show. You don't get people applauding after you do something really well. But in theater you get that, and you also get to feed off of the energy of the audience. I think for Jesus Christ Superstar that we did live on NBC, like that's why it was so successful, because watching that at home with the live audience, the way that they did it, you felt the energy of that audience coming through the television. So it didn't seem stale and stagnant like some of the other ones that they filmed, because you had what you would have if you went to go see this live. You know, you felt the energy from the crowd and the screaming, and it was like a rock show.
Yeah.
You know, and it was amazing, and it was amazing to be. I mean, I was there, so I felt it live, but I watched it as well. And when it came out, and I was like, it still had that same feeling to me, that it did. You know, it's probably a little bit less when you're watching it on screen, but it was like that. It was that energy, and I love that. I love that part about theater is the energy that you have with everybody.
I love that. Well, Joe, this has been wonderful. You are so cool. I have enjoyed this so much, and you know, it's very rare that you meet someone. So on the show, so far for interviews, we had a costumer, and we've had directors and artistic directors, but it's so interesting to hear from someone who has such a different creative part in theater, which is the makeup aspect of it. And I think that was so interesting. I have a friend who's a makeup artist, body painter, who lives in LA, and she's just starting out. So like, this is going to be a great tool for her to watch, which is so cool. So I thank you for that. And I just love hearing about all the great stuff that you're doing with Eggtooth, which, again, everyone watching, Eggtooth Productions, look them up. They're doing some crazy stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. That's for sure.
But I want to thank you one more time for giving us your time. It has been wonderful. So
you're welcome. I'm glad that I could do this.
Thank you. You have a good night, Joe.
You too.
Bye. He's wonderful. I learned so much about not only the makeup aspect of theater, but just his positive attitude and his light. He's a cool guy. Well, thank you all once again for joining us here on the Local Spotlight series. One more time, if you are so inclined to help K&E Theater Group with their 2021 season, in the comments section below, there is a PayPal link. You can click on that to donate. You can also go to ketg.org, click on Support KETG, and donate there. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter, take a look at past production photos, see what our next season is, and also take a look at other local spotlight series, interviews from the past. It's all up there on ketg.org. We're working really hard to continue virtual entertainment for everyone after the September 4th finale of the Local Spotlight series. So you'll be hearing about that as well in the coming weeks. So thank you once again for sharing your night with us. My name is Eddie Zitka. I'm the K&E Theater Group Artistic Director. Thank you again, and see you soon.